Hello, War of the Visions fans. I'm Jackie Fox, and I apologize if my dog is whimpering throughout any part of this recording. She really freaks out while my Uromastix is awake and really likes to watch her, and for some reason, whenever anyone adds any sort of energy to this, like me talking right now or people moving around, she gets really excited because she assumes that we're excited about the lizard too. Anyways, if you stick around to the end of the video, I'll show you what I'm talking about. But today, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about Final Fantasy Tactics and the return of this collaboration and the power that it's bringing with it. So there's going to be a lot of really powerful upgrades here. And these are basically the first, while they don't contain MA3s yet, and they may get them at some point in the future, this basically puts them on an even playing field with a lot of the other characters. And one of the things that's really special about both of the characters we're talking about today, a couple things that they have in common. They're both 80 cost characters. So at this point in the game, before MA3s drop, and unless MA3s drop for specific 80 cost characters, these are going to be the strongest 80 cost characters in the game. So if we're doing 280 content or 230 content, or I'm sorry, 250 content, these may be some of the best ways to fit 3 UR units onto your team and still have a very large amount of power. Another thing to point out is that they're both red mages, which, do I have this? Oh my gosh, is it going to have to load? No. Oh, good. Thank you. Can I go straight to it from here? No. As we get more and more vision cards, this job tool gets to be a less and less efficient way to database it because just it's struggling. It's like a fifth of a gigabyte of data at this moment, and it's just a lot to load on a single web page. I think this is what I want though. Red Mage. Okay. So Red Mage has really cool key partnerships, really strong with the Devout, really strong with Glove, really strong with Katana. So this is going to give these characters a lot of options. It's going to mean that they are going to pair really well into Sodali. They're going to pair really well into Exia. They're going to pair really well into Sephiroth, into Veritas of the Frost, into Gilgamesh. There's a lot of characters that they're going to be able to build up synergies with. So this isn't going to be a purely Red Mage team, but it does provide perfect synergy for these two characters to be used together pretty effectively. And look, we've got unit resistance, a lot of area attack resistance, and plenty of agility. This set of vision cards really has what it needs to be amazing. And if you run them with Gilgamesh, you don't even have to concern yourself with which of these work for the other key partners. Those are all Red Mage characters, and they're all going to be quite powerful. So first, let's look at some of Agrias' upgrades. And I'm going to kind of assume that you know a little bit about our basic kit, and I'll talk about some relevant stuff, but Dream Ability is new. That is going to bring 50% curse resistance, which is enough that that should get her around Veritas of the Frost, at the very least. It should also reduce her chances of being cursed by Sephiroth quite dramatically, but it does not guarantee that she will not be cursed by him. However, it does give her a good starting point, where with another 25 resistance, you would be able to resist Sephiroth as well. And then, especially if she has Protect active, because I don't know that she has Courage, she could still be weak to Ramada. Debuff effect weakening and a skill upgrade. Okay, so let's go into the kit and look at those upgrades. So that is the largest support skill I've ever seen. She gets HP, agility, spirit, initial hate, AP consumption down, reduced physical damage taken by 12%, which is even a little high for a lot of these things. Distance-based resistance 1 to 3. This is still long-range resistance. I'm not entirely sure what 1 to 3 means, but like 1 to 3%? I guess that helps. Increased chance to apply stop by 15% for self if regen is active. So keeping regen active on her should push her stop rate up by 15%. We'll talk about what that means later. It's quite powerful. Okay, so what other upgrades are we getting? Let's see. So her stopping skill is now going to dispel auto revive, Damage is not increased, but it will have an increased 30% chance to hit. With regen active, this is a 40% chance to inflict stop, which means that 25% resistance will not be able to stop it. This is pretty similar to what Ashen Mont has going on. This is pretty similar to what Veritas of the Frost has going on. But it's also going to break their defense and spirit penetration by 30. And since this attacks in an AoE, this AoE pattern also has gotten further away from her, so she doesn't have to cast it right up against herself anymore. She has additional range here. That's very good. This is just a really strong skill, especially with the upgrades that we've seen so far. It's also worth noting that she has the ability to inflict a silence. Wait, this has definitely been upgraded? Because these are aura skills. Oh, okay, hold on. I know there's no sign here that says upgrade, but yeah, this has definitely also been upgraded. So this is the skill that gives her regen. It also gives her hate. It gives her a 50% HP threshold heal, which is great. All of these things are amazing for a tank, especially considering that having this regen active is the way of increasing her chances of stopping. Oh, also her basic attack can disable. She also has an attack that can silence, so she just has a lot of status ailments within her kit, and for reasons I've discussed recently, I think that being able to inflict meaningful statuses and having a better than 25% chance of doing it is a really, really powerful thing in matches that just go longer and longer these days, and more likely get to close to the turn limit, because you can absolutely shut someone down with a character like this. It doesn't necessarily mean that you will beat them. This is more for stalling, but it definitely increases your chances of winning. So let's take a chance and look at these auras. Debuff resistance for all elements, 100%. So all element resistance debuff nullification. It also gives shell for allies and nullifies stun. So nullifying stun could be really important because there's a number of characters that have a 67% chance to stun these days, and those can be really hard, especially for mages to be able to block, even if they have good stun resistance going on. So nullifying stun is a pretty cool status ailment to be able to deal with. It's showing up a lot on tanks. Like, just thinking about Veritas of the Earth and Snow, both of them have big AoE stun capabilities on their LB. I guess while we're down here, let's go ahead and talk about the LB. So she can hit multiple squares, but it's not really the best AoE pattern. It does hit 5 panels, so I guess there is a theoretical time in the future in Grand Arena where she can hit the entirety of another team with the skill, but it's going to dispel distance-based resistance, at least physical type, which is relevant to her damage at least, for enemy. It's going to reduce counter chance by 100% for 3 turns, so they're not countering this, and they're not countering anything for another couple of turns. 200 modifier is okay, that has not been upgraded, but this is now a guaranteed hit, and has a 67% chance to inflict confusion, and a 67% chance to inflict poison. Both of these can be pretty impactful. I mean, we've already seen how incredibly tempo shifting it can be to inflict confusion on multiple targets in a fight with Halloween Alaya. And this is the same chances of that with poison just as a kicker. So that if you do remain confused and you're just running around slapping other people on the back line, you're also dying while you're doing it. So you're not only wasting your turns, but you're also meaningfully moving closer to death. So that's pretty cool. Let's see if anything got increased in her sub-job. I don't think so. None of that looks upgraded. And if it is, I'm not super impressed by it. So she has access to a lot of statuses, and she has a really, really strong ability to keep herself in the fight. both with regen, with threshold healing. I'm not seeing any HP drain. HP drain is something that I would love to see with her, but this also means that that's a thing that can be brought in with Soddly. She does have Paladin, and with Paladin she does not have Courage. Okay. And because of all these factors, she has been incredibly popular on the JP side. Out of all the characters, I mean, I guess I could look at Ramza for comparison, but he's just not that great. If you really like Ramza, I'm sure he'll be good enough, and I'm sure he'll do great in certain teams, and I think he's maybe more evasive now. So maybe Light Evasion can use him at some point in the future, but this is definitely the starlet of this show. And just a quick comparison before we move on to Orlandeau. This is where Orlandeau's at about half the usage, so about half as popular of a character. But there are a lot of opportunities to use these two together. So let's talk about Orlandeau and his upgrades. So Dream Billy, AoE resistance penetration of 40 base. That is ridiculous. Amazing. Fantastic. Reduce magical damage taken by 20% is really significant. Really big. And, you know, if this was on a modern character, it would be broken. But these characters need a lot to bring them back. And I think that this is good and warranted. Reaction block rate of 40. And increase healing power 10. As well as a skill upgrade. So let's see what is going on in his kit. So this skill looks like it has been upgraded. I can't necessarily tell you what. I think this is kind of like this part, and this part is something called self-sacrifice, and it would be really weird if they gave him that as a main job skill. It's kind of lazy and copy-pasty, but so if that were the case, then we can assume it got 25 accuracy, 40 slash attack resistance penetration, as well as reducing physical and magical damage larger the area size by 20, which is both really big, and that's going to stack in quite well with his magic resistance already. So that's another layer against some of the most impactful magic attacks right now. Okay, here is a very big buff that has gotten even bigger. Increase attack by 40% for 4 turns. AP auto restore 10% for 4 turns. Single target resistance 40 for 4 turns when HP is above 70. Which kind of makes him like Gafgarian, who is... if you guys comment about Gafgarian, wanting to know about Gafgarian, this is a very Gafgarian type thing, but also AoE resistance for 4 turns by 40. So this is 40% damage reduction as long as his HP is above 70. So he's going to be really hard to damage at first, and then he's going to start taking damage very, very quickly, in comparison at least. He also has Courage, Nullify Curse, Nullify Blind, Nullify Paralyze, Sleep, and Immobilize for self. Full Curse Nullification is nothing to sneeze at here. This being in his buff rotation is very, very good. It's maybe even more impactful than the Curse Resistance that Agrias got. He's also going to be absorbing 50% of damage done for 4 turns, so he needs it even more than Agrias does, I think, in a lot of ways, because she can still, well, she can't put regen on herself while she's cursed, but curse won't dispel regen, so she'll still have her stop chance up. She just won't be getting the HP, and that's okay, but he really won't be doing his thing if he can't heal, with a skill like this at least. And then he's also going to be able to reduce physical damage larger the attack size for, and also for magic. What? So, okay, so he's going to reduce people's AoE damage when he hits them for 4 turns. That's actually pretty cool. So like he's both AoE damage from his incredible penetration and anti-AoE damage. Very cool. Also, a skill that decreases healing power by 70 is pretty significant. Also, one of his older skills, which absorbed HP and I believe gets him AP back when a target is KO'd by this, now also has single target resistance shred of 60%, which is quite powerful. And I'm not sure that this last skill got upgraded. It looks pretty cool. I mean, getting rid of courage at least is pretty powerful. But this was a newer addition to his kit, so I think it's probably where it always was. Let's see, chance to inflict silence. 2 different skills restore AP on kill for him. His limit burst is massive, so it's going to break physical barriers. It's going to dispel physical and magical based distance-based resistance, which is the kind of thing that Agrias has on her. 240 modifier has been increased. Also, the range on the skill seems to have been increased. Also, the AP cost is down, which is probably true of the last skill as well. It's going to grant him haste now. It's also going to increase his debuff resistance by 50, and AP consumption will be decreased by 25. Both, so long as he has haste, he's going to have that haste for 3 turns off of this LB. So basically, you'll have those 3 things. 2 things for 3 turns. Well, no, 3 things for 3 turns, unless somebody removes the haste. Now that we've seen all that, let's look at their team data. So coming in first place is a team that almost no one is using, and I have seen very few teams who are able to dominate both on offense and defense the way that this team does. Even though it came in second on defense, that was only because it was a really, really good showing for defense in general. In fact, it's tied, I believe, for second in defense as well. Or was that a tie for second in offense that I remember? Yeah. No, yeah, they are tied with the Exia version of the same team. So this team scored 5.5 stars on average between its 3 days, and also averaged 2 defends per day. These are both excellent and staggering numbers. Quite a top tier performance. This put it in first in offense, second in defense. Then the 6th most used team that I checked, being used 59 times across offense and defense on the day I audited, came in 3rd on offense, 4th on defense, but gave such a strong showing, coming pretty close to the other, there's a really big grouping of teams here that are doing really good in the top, that it hung in there. The next is the 3rd most used team with 141 uses on offense and defense on the day I tested, which I believe is October 15th for all these numbers. This is Orlandeau, Gilgamesh, and Agrias. Very, very strong red mage based team. This came in 3rd on defense and 5th on offense. And then with only 10 people using it across offense and defense on the 15th, Orlandeau, Exia, and Agrias. This team did not excel on offense in the same way that the Angela variant did, but it actually did better on defense, coming in with a 2.17 defend per day average, which is just really excellent. Anytime you can go above 2, that's star power for defense. So this may not be the offensive team that you want, but it's definitely the defensive team that you want. 5th most used was Orlandeau, Luciel, and Ramada Astrolancer. So this is going to be your all-lightning team. That's why it came 2nd on offense. Usually these teams do really well on offense and pretty poorly on defense. Although this one scored 1.6 defense per day, which is not bad. Gilgamesh, Veritas of the Frost, and Agrias. This team is actually the 2nd most used team of any that I tested. So apparently a lot of people in JP have really been doing their arena and have their Veritas of the Frost ready to go. This came in 4th place on offense. Once again, being an all-elemental team, being an ice elemental team, it really did not do great on defense. However, this one got a 1.67, so it actually did a little bit better on defense than the previous team, but obviously, the other team came in 2nd on offense, this came in 4th. The place that it really let us down was on offense. At least compared to the other team. Still, 4th place on offense, that's not letting anyone down. That's a very powerful showing. Then, the most used team, Gilgamesh, Exia, and Agrias. This is potentially, this has the potential to be set up as a... Nope. This isn't quite a bait team. I mean, I guess Exia has a lot of kit for dealing with ice characters' weaknesses, but yeah, it was alright. June the Spring Celestial, Gilgamesh, and Agrias. This is the 4th most used team, with 100 people using it across offense and defense. Once again, kind of middling numbers. The defensive score was really similar to Orlandeau, Luciel, and Ramada, which wasn't great. But the offense was just much worse. Then, with only 13 people using it, Orlandeau, Astrius, the Erudite Bolton, Ramada. This is going to be a lightning team without their star healer, and it's going to lose a lot of consistency for that. Offensively, this still did alright, but on defense, it really is, I want to say, the lowest performer on this entire list. It really did quite poorly. And then with only 3 people using this team, and so one of these 3 uses per day is on offense, and they never attack. I wish I could put better numbers to this team. I want to know how Orlandeau, Shalza, and Agrias does on offense, but this guy just doesn't log in to attack, I guess, is what I'm seeing here. Which is a shame, because 2 out of 3 days it got 2 defends, and ended up with a 1.67 average. That's pretty good. I wonder what this team would be like on offense, though. I don't think it would perform super well, but at least like a 3, 3.2, maybe even a 3.6. It could be at least a couple spaces higher on this ranking. But it's not, because you didn't show up. Too bad. So the key partners for these guys are going to be each other. They're both red mages. That's really going to be a strong synergy for either of them. But also, so is Gilgamesh. So Gilgamesh is also going to be a very strong combination with them. Red Mage also has really good combinations with Devout. So Exia is just incredible with this team as well. I think Luciel and Shalza also fit on this team really well because of this. And then One Wing Sephiroth, or whatever star Katana unit, Veritas of the Frost is also a good example here, also work really well. And these are all going to be mostly based on job VC synergies between 2 different jobs, because Red Mage just has so many strong synergies. It's very easy to work in a bunch of extra characters like this. But I also want to mention that potentially Crimson Wizard or Soddly could also make really good pairs with these, because there's a lot of magical firepower, at the very least, in the glove cards and in the glove Red Mage cards, and that would be good for those guys as well. On offense, number 1, Orlandeau, Angela, Agrias. Really surprising showing. One of the only uses of Angela. Not many people running this team, but it did freaking incredible. Second, and I think these next 2 are tied. No. The tie was second on defense. Orlandeau, Luciel, and Ramada the Astra Lancer. So this is an all-lightning team. Those usually do work pretty well on offense for people who are running elementally plain defensive teams. They're going to chew straight through them. But this team performed decently on defense, given that. But still not incredible, or as incredible as it did on offense. One Wing Sephiroth, Gilgamesh, and Agrias. This is using the Red Mage and Katana synergy for a multi-elemental party. Very powerful. Lots of ways to deal extra damage through Gilgamesh. Agrias is going to be curse resistant. And then you're going to have a curse character of your own, and you're just going to be able to out-sustain them because you're pumping out extra damage, you're pumping out extra healing, and you're just not letting them get the best of you. Third is Gilgamesh, Veritas the Frost, and Agrias, all ice team. Not surprised it did really well here. Did not do quite as good on defense as the mono element teams generally don't, but it did pretty good on offense. And I'm happy to see a Veritas hit the rankings. Also, this being one of the more popular teams as well, I'm glad it did well. I'm glad that people's investment in Veritas the Frost has paid off, especially as I've just maximized it myself. Orlandeau, Gilgamesh, and Agrias, the all-red mage team, are 5th on offense. This is seen as a really strong contender. I heard hype about this. I heard about this team from the JP side. It is certainly doing well, and I would imagine that this team does really well on defense too. Yes, it was 3rd place on defense. So this is maybe the best all-arounder that we have here in some respects, but there were a lot that did well on both. Speaking of defense, Sadly, Exia, Agrias, this is the... actually, I don't know how strong this synergy is specifically between Red Mage, Devout, and Glove at the same time, but I know that Red Mage has synergy with both of those. Sadly and Exia have strong synergies with each other, so they make a really powerful couple. Throw Agrias in that, and... also, this is a team, because of its tri-elemental setup, it's the one that actually makes the best use of the dark vision cards and the dark espers, as there's like 4 vision cards, I want to say, that will cover at least 4, maybe 5. There's 4 or 5 vision cards that cover at least 2 of these elements. So you end up with a pretty good team, because they're very strong vision cards as well, so, you know, each of them missing 1 character isn't that bad. So this team actually ends up being really strong, because you have the potential for strong synergies with Red Mage through Agrias, and you also have all those Chaos Espers as well, I mean, Chaos Esper VCs at least, that you can use to boost the power of this team too. Very powerful. Orlandeau, Angela, and Agrias, probably the strongest team that I tested, definitely deserved the number 1. I wish more people used this. I wish I hadn't been so down on Angela, but yeah, this is a strong one. Orlandeau, Exia, and Agrias didn't do quite as well. This one mainly underperformed in comparison on offense, and did just a little bit worse overall, but it did actually tie for 2nd place on defense. These 2 teams both got an average of 2 defends per day. Then we have the kind of the meme team, I guess, the Red Mage team, Orlandeau, Gilgamesh, and Agrias, doing very well in 3rd place on defense. And then finally, One Wing Sephiroth, Gilgamesh, and Agrias, which came in 3rd place on offense, is also in 4th place. The 5th ranked team, I guess you could say, since there was a tie for 2nd on defense. So also a pretty good showing there. If you like this kind of look into characters, I think I'm one of the only people on YouTube that is doing it. So if you appreciate that, be sure to like and subscribe, and know that sometimes I make some more risque content choices. I don't edit myself quite the way that your Mr. Beasts or whatever do. So you definitely got to ring that bell for me, so that you always see content like this, no matter if I dropped a Fox bomb or not. Also, you should definitely check out the link in the description if you want to support the channel. Tons of ways to do that there. You can either support me monetarily, one-time or recurring donations through Ko-fi or Patreon. Also, you can buy my books. I'm a fiction writer. You should check that stuff out. I talk about that in a lot of my outros. Hopefully you've heard about it before, because I'm going to skip that part today and move right to the ending, saying thank you so much for watching. If you appreciate this type of unique content for War of the Visions, definitely make me feel that support. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know this was a great take. And with all that being said, I'll see you in the next one.
Rosie, get down. Rosie. Let the lizard live her life. Rosie. The internet knows you're being a bad girl. The internet knows.